ask this to be recorded. So thanks guys for joining us. So we're running these weekly just to keep you all sort of in the loop as much as possible. We've had a few, no major changes since last week, but a few minor sort of confirmations and updates and guidance. So I'm just going to run through with you what they are, and they all relate to the job retention scheme pretty much. There's very little other news going on at the moment. So the first thing I just want to make sure you're all clear about, because it's very, very confusing. There's a lot of published media news around the fact that the scheme can now apply to anyone that ran payroll up until the 19th of March, not the 28th of February. That's only the date by which you submitted payroll. So it's still really based on February's payroll. You can't have changed that amount or anything like that. So if you're going to furlough yourself, it's going to be based on the payroll we run in February. So we've had quite a lot of questions back, and we'll cover them off and ask people to ask questions as we go along. But a lot of the questions seem to be factored around whether you should be running 80% or 100% of your salary. So the way to think about this is there's two different parts to your salary. There's what we run through your business for tax purposes, and there's what the government are going to reimburse you for if you're furloughed. So the government are only going to reimburse you for up to 80%, but our advice is still to pay yourself, or at least run 100% of the payroll, because that's the tax efficient amount. What you can actually pay yourself, if you're worried about having funds in there to pay yourself, is kind of irrelevant, because it can just build up and it can sit there as being owed to you. You don't have to physically have paid it out to you yet. So unless you really want to, for some reason, you could drop your salary down to 80%, but our advice is keep it 100%, we'll reclaim 80%. That remaining 20% will just eat into the profits of the company. So it will just reduce what you could take out as a dividend, for example, but it's also going to reduce your corporation tax, which is why we recommend to keep that amount in there. Some of the other questions are around the grant itself. So it is taxable. It's non-refundable, it is taxable. So VAT does not apply to it, but corporation tax does. So essentially, you would, in theory, pay corporation tax on it. The amount will vary depending on your salary levels, but if you're furloughed for 3 months, you're going to get somewhere in the region of £1,500 come in. So if you've got £1,500 come in, you, in theory, boost your sales by that amount. So you're going to pay corporation tax of 19% on that. But your cost of salary that we're running, that you might not have otherwise run, would offset against that. So if you're running 80% of your salary and you're getting 80% of your cost in, the two are going to net off against each other. So yes, there is corporation tax to pay on it, but you're going to be able to offset the cost of your salary against that. So just keep that in mind, and we'll factor that in when we do the accounts and help you work out what amount of corporation tax is due as well. I'm just having a quick look down the list of questions we've got. There's some questions around how it actually works, so we'll touch on that in a minute. Okay, there's a good question here, which is, if I have another job not through my limited company, can I still furlough myself under the limited company? So yes, furloughing applies to an individual employment. So if you're on the payroll for your own limited company in February, you can still furlough yourself, even if you've gone off and got a PAYE job elsewhere. So you can still do that, that's fine. Some of the other questions, a lot of the other questions seem to be around sort of the period for which you can furlough yourself. So some people are saying that they might be getting work coming in. Is it still worth furloughing yourself? So that's an area we should recap on. So the furlough scheme can be backdated to the 1st of March if you did no work from that period onwards. And at the moment, it only runs for 3 months, so March, April, May. So at the moment, it finishes the 31st of May. They may revisit that, they may not, we don't know yet. But at the moment, we're having to work on that principle. The other thing regarding how long you can be furloughed for is you have to be furloughed for a minimum of 3 weeks. So you can't say you're furloughed for a week and then bring yourself back. It has to be 3 weeks minimum at a time. So to answer some of these questions that were coming in around, is it worth furloughing myself? Yeah, pretty much. If you're doing no work whatsoever, no marketing or anything like that, then yes, furlough yourself, and you can bring yourself back out of being furloughed after 3 weeks. Some of you may not know, obviously, how soon you might get a contract. So you might be worried about saying you're furloughed and then getting a contract the next day, for example. What happens then? So what we're going to do, we normally run payroll for you on the 6th of the month for the month ahead. So 6th of April would have been for the month of April. So what we're going to do is we're not going to submit the furlough grant application until the end of the calendar month. So, so for example, if you said you're going to be furloughed for April, we'd run payroll for you on the 6th of April, but we wouldn't submit that furlough claim until May, the 1st of May. So we'd ask you to confirm that you did actually do no work for that month, because we know that your situations can change. So don't worry about telling us you're furloughed and then you suddenly might get a job. We will deal with that by doing it retrospectively. And that's the only way we can do it, because we can't submit claims and then back out of them. And it's vitally important for you guys and for us that we don't submit false claims. So that's the mechanism in which we're going to do it. So to confirm, we'll run payroll on the 6th for the month ahead. And then the following month, so the 1st of the following month, we will write to you, or email you, sorry, never write to you, email you and say, this is what furlough claim we're going to submit for you. Do you think this is a true claim? Do you approve it? Can you confirm you didn't work for that period? As soon as you've done that, we'll submit the application, and then you should get payment back into your bank account. So the scheme, in theory, opens up on Monday, so next week. So we will start attempting to do them early next week, and those claims will obviously be for anyone that was furloughed in March payroll. Obviously, you guys all know what HMRC are like on their system, so the whole world, the whole country will be trying to get onto this scheme on Monday. So I imagine their IT systems will probably fall over straight away, but we will be giving it a go. So if you don't hear from us in the first couple of days next week, just bear with us, because obviously we're doing as many of these as we can do. And like I said, we will email you the confirmation before we submit it. So next week, we will be submitting furloughs for March. End of April or 1st of May, we will email you for confirmation that you were furloughed for April, and then submit that. And then obviously run payroll on the 6th of May. And after the end of May, 1st of June, we'll do the same thing again for May, ask you to confirm if you were furloughed, and then make the submission to come through. The other thing to say on that is this is a fair amount of extra work for us, if I'm being honest. Well, strictly speaking for Ryan and Harry, they're going to process it for you all. I'm not, but we have decided not to make any additional charges for this, because obviously we do know how tough it is for everyone. So so we will do this for all of you. There won't be any extra charges for this. We're going to try and do this obviously as quickly as possible, but just bear with us, because obviously we are reliant on HMRC's system as well. And we can do this for you as long as we are agents for you. So there's a few people that have said they're furloughing that we haven't had agent codes back, but we can now apply for that online. So we'll be taking care of that. And if we need anything from you to make sure we're agents, Harry or Ryan will reach out to you individually, separately, just to let you know that we're not agents yet, what we do to get that process through. So I think while I'm just looking at other questions, did I miss anything off, Ryan, Harry?
No, I think that's good. Yeah, so we was going to talk about sort of the process, what you've covered there, in terms of sort of how we're going to go through and do it, but we're going to do it at the end of the month. If you've got employees, we do run your salary at the end of the month anyway. So as part of that process, when we do it at the end of the month, we'll just let you know we're going to furlough and get you to confirm them details there and then. But yeah, for most it is that we run it on the 6th. So we run it on the 6th and then delay the furlough claim until the end of that month.
I think what we will do, I've just decided, because it is fairly confusing, I do appreciate that, us just throwing dates at you. One of the things we're doing after this call, for anyone that's on the call now live, or lots of people have asked for the recording, we're sending out a Q&A document. What we'll do is we'll just list a timeline, all the different dates of what's going to happen over the next 3 months. So you know when we're running payroll, when we'll ask you for the claim, and when you might be able to expect payment back. We're not sure exactly on that bit yet. They reckon 10 days, the first batch will take approximately to get paid. So they think fairly quickly, but obviously that side is relying on HMRC. What we can do is just make sure that, you know, when we're submitting it, and do that as quickly as possible. I'm just looking through the other questions that came over. So one of these questions was around, I'm not sure if I'm personally eligible, as I did a small block of work over the last few days. So this is why we are waiting till the end of the month and ask you to confirm. So even if you do a tiny bit of work, you can't be furloughed for that period, but you could furlough yourself after you've done a bit of work. So in this example here, this person isn't on the call, so I won't name them. But in this example here, where they've done a couple of days worth of work, they can furlough themselves after they finished, as long as there's a 3-week block where they've done no work. So we'll get you to clarify that each month to make sure that we're all sort of kept on the straight and narrow. One of the other questions that came in was, do you think there are any negative implications for furloughing as a business? Frankly, no, as long as you're really strict with yourself and you follow the rules. Like I said, no work whatsoever. And you need to be careful because even marketing the business will be seen as doing work. So one question remains, and I don't think there's a way around it, to be honest, but one question remains about how could you go and find work if you're furloughed? Well, you probably can't, in all honesty. So bear that in mind. It is tricky. If you're going to go out there and start actively looking for stuff, then that could be classed as sales and marketing activities. So you wouldn't be allowed to furlough. But otherwise, there's no real negative implications as a business. So, and in fact, I think I've touched on this in one of the points before. IPSI, so the professional regulation body for contractors and freelancers and self-employed, they actually see it as a positive. The fact that, well, not a positive, that's the wrong way of wording it, apologies. They're looking on the bright side of the fact that you guys are massively under-supported in this time and saying that by being under-supported, HMRC can't be arguing in the future that you are really an employee because they've supported employees, they've supported self-employed people, but they have not supported limited company contractors like you guys. So if anything, in the long run, it might be more favourable to your IR35 sort of stance with the government, but who knows? I think we have covered most questions. If anyone's got any other questions, do you want to start putting them in the chat now and we can address them live? Don, right, where are you? Don, I'm just going to unmute you. Hi, Don.
Hey, Don.
Hi there. Hi, guys. Yeah, this was quite an interesting thing. I saw a couple of articles about a scheme that the government are intending to launch, which is, I think, co-funding for startups. I don't know how many of your clients fall into that category, but I think the idea is that there'll be VC firms and the government trying to keep startups alive. The intention is that you pay back later, or the state will take a share in your startup as an alternative to having to pay back. So there's a few details on the Times website, FT, and I think the Telegraph. But I was just curious if you guys were aware of this one.
No, to be honest, actually, that's one I haven't seen. It's tough because obviously we get sent a lot of ideas from petitions and all sorts. So we obviously try and keep track of it. What I have seen is that they have sort of publicly admitted that startups are under-supported, and the thing that I had seen potentially being muted around was around them enhancing the SEIS and EIS sort of investment schemes. So they're the schemes that make it attractive for VCs to invest in startups. So I did see that they were looking at enhancing those to try and encourage more sort of private investors to shell money out. But yeah, I think with all of this stuff, we keep a close eye on what's going on, but we kind of wait for official guidance because there's so many things that will get backed out of that potentially mooted around. So if we see anything further on that, then we'll let you know. And sort of
Yeah, I've just made a note of that, so we'll have a look and see if there is anything done. All right.
Yeah, it certainly sounds promising. So
yeah.
Thanks for that, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
No, cheers. We've got Arps has got a hand up there. Hi, Arps.
Hi, Luke. Hi, Ryan. I got a quick question. So I know you said you're basically the way you're going to process it. I just wondered, how long will it take for the payment to come in once you've processed the time of being furloughed?
So the real answer is we don't know because obviously we're relying on HMRC. I think the guidance I've seen suggests 10 days for the first payment, so when they first open the scheme, and then after that I think they're talking about 5 days. So a week or two is kind of the time frame that they're expecting to receive the payments out in.
Okay, cool.
No problem. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And just to clarify, it's deemed as revenue, right, when it comes through, which is why it's going to be corporation taxed.
Effectively, yeah. But there's no VAT implications of it. It's outside the scope of VAT. But yeah, essentially it'll be all grant money, even outside of these schemes, is always treated as income into the business. So therefore taxable.
Fab, thanks.
No worries. Cheers.
Cheers.
We've got where are we? Sorry. Oh, Alan. Lovely. Let's unmute you, Alan. Hi, Alan.
Hi, Alan.
You asked around the self-employed.
I've got a couple of questions actually.
Oh, go on then, yeah.
Well, first one is, I think it's probably just been answered, but the 10,000 we got via the local council, that grant.
Oh yeah.
Is that taxable as well?
Yeah, so that's the same thing. So again, non-refundable, no VAT, but it is income, so corporations need to be doing it.
Yeah, and I know most of your guys are company directors, whatever, but just wondered what's rules around somebody claiming they're 80% when they're self-employed.
Yeah, so they got the
how do they go about that? Is that done on the revenue side?
So is that their reach out? Is that right, Luke?
Yeah, it's
not that you have to apply for it, Alan. It's that you should be receiving something letter-wise from HMRC that says you're eligible for that support. And off the back of that, there should be some instructions that tell you how you go and then claim the support. But at the moment, that is that HMRC reach out to you rather than you reaching out to HMRC. I think it's their way of trying to cut down queries, really, is that they've told people if you're eligible for it, they will reach out. However long that takes them to reach out, I don't know. But yeah, if you didn't hear anything soon, let us know and we can point you in the right direction of who you might need to speak to about that. But you should be receiving something.
And ultimately, even if it took months to come through, you'll get it, it'll be back.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, obviously they're trying to process God knows how many things at the moment. But yeah, it should be backdated from whenever you sort of stopped working and you've been impacted by this. So yeah, it should be the case that they reach out to you on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
Lovely. No problem.
No worries. Cheers, Alan.
Hasn't got a first name, just says Y. Apologies, I don't know your name. Apologies, Mr. or Mrs. Stewart. Hi there.
It's Ifat, that's fine, no worries.
Sorry, apologies.
Hi, Ryan. So, two questions. One is, does interviewing consider to be any marketing or work activities? Because obviously, not necessarily I'm actively looking, but people might approach me and interview me.
It's really, really tough. So the problem with the rules is that they've deliberately been very vague so that they won't give specifics. So they, for example, just say marketing activities would mean you're working, so you can't furlough yourself. They don't go into what they class as furloughing. And to be honest, I don't think they will do until the point where they make a decision internally and then try and claim it back from someone unfairly. So my gut feel is that anything to do with that could be deemed to be working. So unfortunately, I think that could be the case. I think that's kind of why we decided we're going to wait till the end of the month so that you can make a decision about whether you think you carried out any activities for the business at all in that month or not. And if you did, then we would have to suggest that you don't furlough yourself.
So if I have interviewed and it was unsuccessful, can I still claim and say, well, I'm still at the same position as I started with?
Unfortunately, no, because it's not based on the outcome, it's based on the work. So just by doing the interview, that would class as sort of marketing activity for the business. So you couldn't have been furloughed over that period. If after that period, you don't then do anything for 3 weeks, you can then furlough yourself from that date onwards.
Okay, fair enough. And any new instruction regarding the director's fee or anything? Because I know that was it is our key concern because the majority of the income comes from the director's fee.
So the dividends you receive?
Yeah, the dividends.
No, nothing on that. And I unfortunately, I'd be very surprised if they change their stance on that. So the Chancellor's stance was pretty clear in that he talks about, in his eyes, that dividends are a result of investment activity and not employment activity. So for the vast majority of you guys on this call, obviously it's resulted from you doing work. So for you guys, it's employment really. But the reason they won't budge on this point is, imagine if you had loads of shares in a FTSE 100 company and they paid you out £10,000 of dividends every year. How would they distinguish between what dividends you got from investing in shares versus what dividends you've got from your limited company? So, not that I'm sticking up for them at all, by the way, but I'm just explaining what their sort of view and stance is. So, the only support at all, and I would imagine is going to be the case, is just going to be this furloughing of your 80% of your salary, if you can even benefit from that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Patrick, thanks for that video, sharing that. It's one I've seen as well. Yeah, Martin Lewis videos, they're always really good stuff. And that one in particular, yeah, relating to this sort of situation, is a good one. So if anyone on this call wants to go and watch it, please do.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, short and sweet.
Yeah,
that's
that's a
helpful.
good one.
Good. Okay. Since I'm you, Patrick, did you have any questions for us?
That's fine, thank you, man.
No,
Cheers,
Thanks,
Patrick.
Ryan.
Thank you. Ryan, was there anything else you want to run through at all, everyone?
No, I think we've covered a lot of the questions we got on the emails and stuff. Like we said, we're going to send out the recording of this, a bit more information and stuff. We're going to go through the process for the first time next week. So we're hoping it's as straightforward as it seems to be. But yeah, any questions that we've got, we'll let you guys know. Any bits that we need from you guys, we'll obviously pass that back to you. But yeah, we're going to start processing next week. Hopefully then it means that the money starts coming in within the next 10 days or so. But yeah, if you are worried about it at all, you got any other questions, drop us an email, give us a call, whatever, and yeah, we'll help you out.
Lovely, good stuff. Okay, I think we'll leave it there then. Like I said, watch out for the email. We'll follow up stuff from there. If you have any other questions or anything, then we'll run one of these again next week. If people want to keep hopping on, we're more than happy to keep doing them. So, yeah, thanks for your time, guys, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See ya.